ALTBAYS. ALTBAYS. ALTBAYS.
Good evening, good morning, hello, hola, wherever you are. I am Fabian Robertson. I'm wearing a pink t-shirt. We are live on YouTube Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. Welcome to ALTBAYS show. I'm hosting tonight because Leo is not here. He is with his lovely parents who do not speak a word of English, and it was hilarious meeting them. Oh, there we go. Big storms in the news. Cyclone Hale or Halley? Which one is it, do you think?
Halley.
Halley? Oh, I'm being pulled. Am I being pushed? Oh, there you go. Better side of my face. Thank you to my lovely person on my left, who I'll introduce in a moment. Cyclone Halley's been hitting New Zealand, causing a lot of devastation for some people. I haven't noticed any of it. I've had a great time. My house is dry. I am fortunate, and I'm not trying to rub it in. Just, pick where you live better,
Oh.
Sometimes think about that. On my left, over here, is Brett.
Who is that directed at? Is that I hope that's not directed at the... Oh, no, no one lives at the yacht club, eh?
No, I did hear about the boat club.
It's
a bit sad, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a little bit. Looks like they've lost the deck I seen today on Footy Chit Chat.
I actually played cricket at my friend Graham Eadie's 60th birthday. Got his kids and a few of his cousins, nephews, nieces, all playing cricket on that strip of grass that is no longer there.
I got married on that strip of grass,
I
man.
was just going to segue. So across the table, we're going to jump straight to him, Brett.
No, looks like it.
Over here is Rob CORKILL, 6'8", sexy manpower. If you are on the audio-based platforms like Apple Podcasts, or if you're on Audible or whatever they call those things, Spotify,
Google Podcasts.
Google Podcasts. The man in front of me is bearded, 6 foot tall, really tidy haircut, short back and sides. He's got a deep booming voice as you're about to enjoy. But you got married in a location that doesn't exist. What a great group of people to be a part of.
Yeah, technically, are the vows still valid? I'll be in the dog box, but being that there's no physical location, is that a thing or is it not a thing?
I think they'll rebuild it like the $1 Million Man, though, won't they? They'll stack it up, reclaim that land,
Patch it up in all slow motion.
Yeah,
I like it.
Good community effort today. Did you see the pics?
No. What's happening?
Of course you did.
it's a whole lot of illegal activity apparently. But,
Yeah, brilliant.
but good community spirit. Yeah. Yeah.
So what are they doing? So I've noticed, if you're listening in Whitianga, the Coromandel, New Zealand, there's been a big storm, Cyclone Halley's coming to hit, and if the properties on the beach line have not been protected with giant boulders, or they're just in a particular point in the bay, they're getting battered by waves
Which
again
most
and
of
again,
them have been, though.
and it's been eroding away. Our lovely boat club, which has a lot of history here. And so you're saying there's some illegal action that's coming in to help, or some volunteer action, without consent in these troubled times, to come in and support the boat club. What's happening?
Not sure
Tell
on
us
the...
about it. You're the resident expert.
You brought it up, man. I'm not sure on the consent or legalities of it, but no, sandbags, concrete blocks, get down there.
Lovely.
Into it. Yeah.
That'd be quite fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it was a real good community effort. They put the calls out on Facebook that I saw anyway, and they had in the photos, they like 50 people, maybe 100 people. I don't know. A lot of people though, filling up the big sandbags, lifting them in place, trying to save the land.
You need somebody running the cutter on the barbie in a situation like that, like the old bacon and egg buddies would go down
wonderful.
the tree.
Pre-Christmas, I went to Kuawatunu, and there's no more fun than sitting there knowing the tide is coming in, and you've only got 10 metres before you're about to be flushed away by the tide. So you start digging, and you build yourself a barrier, you build a trench, you build everything, and you protect yourselves. So I imagine it would have been a lot of fun. 50 dads going, kids, bugger off, we're doing this.
Yeah, well, they had a digger in that sort of carry on too, so that definitely thanks for coffee in my direction.
Yeah, you're welcome.
No, it was really good to see. It's a shame that it wasn't protected earlier. I don't know what the deal is with that. There's a lot on Footy Chit Chat, Footy Real Chat, all about the whether the council should have done something or did or didn't, or the bureaucrats in the way. But the bureaucrats are there for a reason, to slow things down, because things move too fast, and it's a problem as well, isn't it? Unless it's an emergency, of course.
One of my neighbours who gave me a lovely marrow over the fence today.
Bone marrow or
not bone? It's actually just a large zucchini that's a bit overgrown. I was handing over a Tupperware container full of a baba ganoush type dip that I made for her, and she handed me a whole nother marrow. So the whole cycle has to start again. Will it ever end? Bring on winter. But But she told me that there was something like we had protection available right nearby, but not allowed to install it. That's the rumours I've heard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, that's the council for you, isn't it? You know, they're good and they're bad.
Speaking of the council, the man across the table from me, when I first met him, was not a tree hugger, but a tree planter, a man who visited with great incentives with a really green image. So, Rob, who are you, in essence? And I want you to lead into that really amazing time where you helped, really, the Coromandel in a big way.
How do I follow that? Yeah, going back to the council and the government stuff, recently had a bit of a change in the professional kind of career, moving to Sport Waikato, which is great. Just get to talk sport and active rec all day and achieve some positive stuff there. But preceding that, 12 years with regional councils. Firstly, 5 years with Taranaki Regional Council, followed by 7 years with Waikato Regional Council based in Whiri here. So the majority of that work was focused on working with landowners on environmental restoration initiatives, fencing and planting waterways, native bush protection, a bit of biosecurity stuff, animal pest control and things like that. And mainly farmers or larger scale landowners. I come from a farming background, so that helps get a foot in the door, and then work on the environmental restoration stuff on top of that. So it was cool. Get to see some awesome country, awesome people, really, really good stuff happening out there. Farming or agriculture or things like that gets a bit of a bad rap, but having witnessed and been involved in some of that mahi on the ground, there's some pretty cool stuff happening. So
is that Environment Waikato? Is that the Waikato Regional?
Formerly Environment Waikato.
Oh, they're not that anymore. Okay, Roger. So are they planting? It's on a little bit of a tangent. As what are they called now?
Waikato Regional Council.
Waikato Regional Council. Are they enforcing the planting of all the streams and rivers?
I think
even down to quite small ones. I've heard through the grapevine. Yeah,
it's pretty complicated. So just going back to when I was involved, a lot of this type of stuff, particularly the fencing to keep stock out of waterways, you will have to do it at some point, no doubt. A lot of the planting was voluntary, particularly when I was working in Taranaki. All of the landowners were doing that at their own cost, off their own bat. Oh, cool. And, we were doing 500,000 native plants a year.
Man.
And you compare that in a region like Taranaki, which is relatively small. You've got the Maunga in the middle and all the waterways flowing off that. That's I think it worked out to be one of the largest ecological restoration projects in the Southern Hemisphere.
Huh.
And, 500,000 to 600,000 plants per year. And that had been in place since the early to mid-90s or something like that. So that's huge numbers. And they're seeing some really good results in terms of improved water quality and things now. Long game, like people think it's a sort of short fix, but it's not. So it takes a lot of time to turn that around. But having said that, and like I said earlier, easy to bag on farmers or get negative about it. But if you look at generational practices, they were doing what they thought they should be doing at the time with the science that was available to them. And now we've got so much more information available to us. It's just a behaviour change or change in mindset in order to keep kind of moving forward and keep the industry viable, I guess. So
just on that, to take me back, because I am not a scientist or never really studied at school with any great gusto. What was it that you were asking? Are you saying that you need to plant these to clear up water? So is it the idea that in 50 years, if, say, these 10,000 on your large property trees grow larger, what are they? Are they filters for rainwater? And what are they eating the products that we don't want?
Filter is the right word. So basically vegetation is a filter for the runoff and the leachate and the nutrient coming off, which, is pretty standard for any farming operation. So the plants are basically water purifiers, right? And if you think of aquatic species that live in those streams, some of them are super sensitive. If you get into the technical science stuff, there's something called the MCI, or the Macroinvertebrate Community Index, which is a measure of stream health based on the number and types of critters that you have that might not necessarily be fish, but even little things living under rocks and stuff like that. If you have a real healthy waterway up by the mountain, for example, you got heaps, whereas down towards the coast or those low-lying areas where farming is more common, maybe not so great. So yeah, that's sort of what it's all about. Ultimately, it's a water quality thing. Think about where we live on the coast. You got the kids swimming in the stream mouths down on the beach and stuff like that. You don't want cows upstream crapping in the water, mate.
Because it's a physical barrier too, eh?
Yep.
To stop, like the plants will be that literal barrier, so they aren't actually like in the streams and on the edges of the streams.
And not just water quality too, but you've got the flow-on benefits of that around biodiversity and wildlife corridors and things like that. So, yeah, it's all good stuff.
I'd love to know what the naysayers are. Are there any conspiracy theorist farmers over the 12 years you worked? The people that just say no and say, and do they come up with what is a reasonable justification in their own eyes to say no? Or is it simply it's a cost issue, it's a this issue? Or do they have a viewpoint on science or ecology that is not common or updated?
Had a few interesting ones, as you'd expect over 12 years. Cost is a major one, right? Because you get that urban and rural divide and people saying that farmers need to be doing all of this. I mean, they've got a business to run. And like any business that's operated off an annual budget and they've got X amount to put into this and X amount to put into that. If people think that they can fork out a couple of $100,000 for the fencing and planting and do it now, well, they're probably dreaming or they don't realistically know how that farming system operates. So needs to be a bit of slack cut there, but urban and rural divide is always there. It's just a lack of understanding and education really. But yeah, heard some great ones, but the challenge for me, I mean, for me, the environmental stuff was cool, but it was about the challenge of the people. Like I am a people person, and it's sort of about planting the seed and a different way of thinking and some new ideas and then making it their idea and then seeing that evolve over time.
Kind of like Inception.
So you're Leonardo DiCaprio and you're the Asian guy on the airplane. And so today you're going to put an idea in his head and he's going to cycle it back to you.
Is this a movie reference?
It's a movie reference.
Have you not seen Inception?
Maybe not. Like I said offline, my attention span, mate, sitting through movies fidgety, not fantastic.
Yeah. So Inception is they go in when someone's sleeping and they put this little thank you, and they put this little thing in their ear or something. Well, that's what it's like on Rick and Morty. They put this little thing and they go inside into their dream essentially, and they inhabit their dream and then try and make them think that they've had the idea in their dream, and then they get back out, and then this person wakes up and goes, "I've had a great idea," and so it's sort of like corporate espionage. But
understand, yeah.
It's a little bit more exciting than that, though.
I tried that method on a farmer once, and that relationship broke down. So.
I can imagine.
Licking his ears was not the way to get him.
3 o'clock in the morning, tapping on the window. No, it's not. It's not the way to go.
Speaking of not drinking, how's your whiskey? Pretty good.
You mean this delicious nectarine just juice? No, don't throw me under the bus, mate.
I believe the bottle did say blackcurrant with an apple base, but it doesn't look like a blackcurrant with an apple base.
No, there's some kind of fermentation process happening there.
It's kombucha.
Yeah.
No, it is non-alcoholic.
No, look, 12 months, like I said to the guys, I'm not even sure if it was a New Year's resolution because we don't normally do them, but 12 months, no alcohol.
I want you to say it live on here, and then you have to sort of stick to it. It's a way of motivation.
Mate, when I commit, I commit. So 12 months,
the opposite of me. Then
it's no, pretty much. It's early doors, but see how we go. Can't be a bad thing.
She'll be a hell of a New Year's Eve next year, though.
Yeah,
right?
will be. Let's not talk about that.
I want to jump back into the planting because you talk about the cost of it, and you talk about 500,000, 500,000 individual trees that requires planning of where it would be, digging them out, planting them, looking after them, securing them, stakes, tying them on. What does it cost? Like, I don't know. I imagine there's many
along
species.
With the fencing that goes with it too, right?
So, what are we talking in terms of? It's not individual plant costing. Is it 50 at a time with the fence? What are the units?
No, you can break it down to individual plant costs. But obviously, like in recent years with the price of everything going that way, so you're dealing with large scale restoration native plant nurseries, right? So the cost saving comes in that bulk. So you're dealing with native plant nurseries that are pumping out millions of plants per year, and it depends on the size of them. If you go like a T28 Manuka, which is a relatively small Manuka seedling, that might work out at $1.50, maybe a little higher. But then you can break it down to say you pay a contractor to put the plant in the ground, for example. You might be looking at $6.50 a plant in the ground. But that's full price. But what Waikato Regional Council were really great at, that is subsidised. And the base rate for that, the landowner can get, I think, 35% back. So there's heaps of funding out there for this type of work. Taranaki was a little bit different. That was back in the day where these plants were about $2 per plant for a PB3, which is actually bigger, really good quality, and then the planting cost on top of that, but that wasn't funded. So, but if you look at all the regions right around the country and external funding as well, there's so much money out there for that type of environmental restoration work. It's just about receiving the right advice and setting them up with a positive experience first, because that relationship is pretty key. But there's money to burn out there, so
in that sense, do you try and go, in terms of getting the idea in their head, do you say, like, looking out your window, wouldn't it be great to be able to see, tui flying through behind your orchard, and get their personal sense of, I have a lovely green image, before they then expand out into the wider bits of their land?
It depends who you're dealing with, because it's funny, because I've dealt with hundreds of landowners from large scale. We're talking a couple of 1,000 hectare properties to the lifestyle blockers, and time is money for some of these people. Some of them, they just want the bare bones. What's it going to cost me? How long is it going to take? Right, get out the door, sweet as. Whereas some, they can sit down for 4.5 hours and talk footy, and they might make you a roast and all that type of thing. And you have to tailor your message to each individual person. But with biodiversity and biosecurity and threats to our native species becoming the awareness around that becoming more prevalent, people are keen on that type of thing. And if you kind of, depending on where you are in the country, say, how cool would it be in 50 years' time, children or grandkids to have kokako flying by or hearing that dawn chorus or something like that, because you have to start somewhere, right? So it comes down to the individual that you are dealing with, and you get pretty good at just figuring out where the interests are and what will make them kind of spark, and it's all part of the skill. So
it's quite a cool position. So you're more a spokesperson and a manipulator and sort of the guru person.
A cult leader.
Yeah, you're a cult leader, but a cult of growing life.
Yeah, and
making their land more, because it would make their land more valuable, surely.
Yep, definitely. No, there's some cost incentives involved there too. Hey, you guys can use those words, but like I said, I agree with
Rob CORKILL, the soothsayer.
Yeah. I get the feeling there's going to be a few stitch-ups tonight, but I think like I said earlier, coming from, I grew up on a dairy farm, and I was up early doors milking things like that, and that language and the knowledge of farming systems and things was pretty common for me, and that allowed me to get a foot in the door with these landowners to start achieving some pretty cool stuff. What sort of grinds my gears a bit is, they're all well and sort of qualified people, but you get a lot of people that might have studied ecology to death and they've got a PhD here and a PhD there, and they go out there and try to change the world, but they're actually lacking people skills. It's people skills first, right? Because if you can't get a foot in that door, or you're going to talk down to people or put the perception out there that they don't know what they're talking about when it's their land, no.
Because I'm guessing that the what's the word?
Brett Soanes, everybody.
I'm struggling.
Today, Junior.
I'm struggling. The wellness of the land and the environment is sort of like a more leftish sort of leaning proposition, right? And profiting from the land as a more rightish leaning. So, like, did you come across those sorts of struggles where, I'm guessing most farmers are more right-leaning, I'm guessing.
It's interesting, because what you'll find, most farmers want to leave the land in a better state than when they took it over. That was quite a common theme that I found in my dealings with them, right? And you might sort of assume the left and the right, but they have a business to run, but they want to do good by it as well, because them taking care of the land is going to benefit in the economic sense anyway. So that's awesome. It all ties in, and I think if you just start looking at one piece of the puzzle and focusing on that and not that holistic picture, then it becomes pretty difficult, and that's when the finger pointing starts. It's you're only in it to make money, or
I've done plenty of that finger pointing.
I was going to say, speaking of finger pointing and individual pieces, I've heard an argument, and I think you may have dismissed it briefly when we played cricket together once, and somebody else brought it up, definitely not me, about deforesting for timber and sort of the building industry, about people, they cut down trees all the time, but I think I recall you saying that's a very small fraction of what the actual issues are in terms of trees and health. Am I on the right ballpark there?
Yeah,
I may not be paying attention.
No, look, the whole production forestry thing is a complex beast too, right? Because there's some issues associated with that, but there's actually some really good practices in place. Now, you look at Pinus radiata as a product and the value around that, and actually the environmental benefits in terms of hill country soil conservation and things like that it has. It has its place, but obviously, particularly a place like a Coromandel, we were talking about storms earlier, something like that blows in and you've got a forest block that's recently been harvested, then you get a whole bunch of sediment pumped into the harbour. Not such a great look. But yeah, and there's also the case around carbon farming, carbon credits, and companies buying up farms to put them into trees when really that land is potentially still good for grazing. That's another issue. So yeah, look, complex. I can't recall what that conversation was, but
it's all good.
Yeah.
Must have been a riveting game of cricket to have a conversation.
Look, mate, when you're standing out in the field for hours and hours, you talk about all sorts, but mainly we just laugh at him because he doesn't catch the ball. So.
Yeah. There was a question I was actually going to ask.
With the injuries, yeah?
No, I don't care for your injuries so much. If I was to, say, play a game of cricket, which I did earlier on, or later in last year, and I'm not that good at catching. So what would make me a better catcher? Am I not catching properly because my reflexes are too slow? Because I'm not an overly uncoordinated person or anything like that. You know, sometimes like when it bounces off the palm and I haven't closed my hands quickly enough or whatever, like, well, I'll ask both of you. Well, don't ask you because you suck at catching apparently. What could give me some good tips on how to catch better?
Coach Rob, Mercury Bay Cricket Club, Rob CORKIll. How do you teach your young ones in your teams to catch?
That's my segue.
So
is it ever too late to learn how to catch
the
the ball?
Never too late to learn how to catch a ball.
Good.
If there's a key takeaway from tonight, it's that. So I have the privilege of coaching the Mercury Bay Year 3, Year 4 Bush Pigs.
Bush Pigs. I like the name. It's my sister's nickname.
The Bushies. Key thing for that, well, you're co-coach, mate, so you can sort of chip in here too.
I didn't know you were a co-coach.
Well, he hasn't turned up yet though. Like he put his hand up as co-coach, and we haven't seen him. But having said that, I think 3/4 of our practices have been rained off. Yep. That was in term 4.
I think I've been at 3 of the trainings. One where you had to be away on work, and that's all good. But it's been fun.
Yeah, it's wet. Great. It's been wet. Going back to the catching thing though, it's soft hands. Like if you picture you're trying to catch like a little fluffy duckling and you're not trying to crush it or kill it. Soft hands.
Oh, that's the ticket.
Good vision helps.
Yeah.
General, that thing.
Is it your glasses?
I only use one eye, so depth perception for me is always an issue. Like,
what do you mean you only use one eye? What does that even mean? Like you're like a pirate.
As a toddler, I was born with one eye that wasn't attached properly, so I had lots of surgery to fix my right eye. So I had an eye patch on 5-6 hours a day for about 2.5, 3 years on my good eye to make my right eye, connect and actually sort of spark. Oh, right. Which you have to do before the age of 7 when a significant amount of your eye development is finished. There you go. So I literally have depth perception. I have monocular vision. I only use one eye at a time. There you go.
We for some reason he ends up, this is for like the senior bloke semi-social hit and giggle cricket, right? And the ball gets hit out to Fabian and he's way out there and you just think, oh no. Oh no, and he runs in the opposite direction thinking the ball's going that way and the ball's going over there. And it's pretty weird, but it's bloody entertaining. We don't take it too seriously, kind of frustrating for a bowler sometimes.
You guys should like guide him then. Be like, run left or something.
No, we just abuse him.
Run left. No, stop digging your hole.
Yeah, the left.
Stop burrowing.
Like I said, you're never too young to start, or it's the whole practice thing, but some people you just give up on. So, but no, look.
What's his reflex? You wouldn't put him as a slip or anything like that?
Absolutely not.
Because I would also make it, I tried to get in a, not slip, but like in that real close position, but I don't know what it's called. Well, it's actually pretty much directly in front of the bowler, just like right there. Like, is that, because slips up behind, is it?
Silly mid on, that's good.
Yeah, and it was like absolutely fucking terrifying. Even with the Kiwi cricket set, it was just like... Yeah, I couldn't handle it. Every time the ball came, instead of going like this, I went like this, and it was Yeah.
The cool thing when you captain teams, if you got somebody on the team that you don't like, you can put them there, or you can make them go fine leg to fine leg. So at the change of an over, they just go to like the farthest end of the field, or if they've stuffed up or something like that. But we're not like that. You know.
I feel like I ran fine leg to fine leg a lot in our most recent game.
Yeah,
So is that saying something?
No, I actually think it was the Whakamatāa team that wanted to do swap every over and all this extra running and nonsense.
I wasn't there, and it doesn't surprise me that
awful.
happened, because it's like babysitting. Trying to get these guys organised is like babysitting, so it's not good.
What's his bowling like?
Actually impressive.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Not too fast, I'm guessing?
Fuck.
No,
Thank you.
it's not quick.
No.
But he does some fancy stuff, and he talks a big game, and he's a really good umpire.
Carries sandpaper in his pocket.
I'm a very good umpire. I love umpiring.
If you ask him the fifth ball of the 16th over, which occurred 8 overs ago, he'll be able to tell you what happened, which is kind of weird. But yeah, no, it's all,
what are you like at bowling? I imagine you bowl pretty quick.
oh, just rampant. No. No, the boys give me a bit of a hard time. Try a bit of leg spin, which isn't very good at all.
Can I just come in and say, Rob is actually quite a good leg spinner and has a very good control over his deliveries when we practice in the nets. It's when we go out on a playing pitch where it's 3 full tosses and 4 short ones, then all of a sudden he goes back to being a 6'8" straight bowler, and he can do quite a bit because of the height. The ball bounces a lot higher.
They don't even know where
steeper.
the ball's coming from. It looks like it's coming out of the sky, I imagine.
I think not to blow my own trumpet, currently leading wicket taker for the Barracudas.
Oh, is that what you guys are called, the Barracudas?
Yeah, I'm not sure how that name came up, but it had to be like a nautical or
I'm guessing
marine
you
type
have all
thing.
got worms. That's what.
Actually, when you bring it there.
What it was either the Mercury Bay Buccaneers or the Barnacles, and then somebody the Barracudas came up, and it's kind of like an aggressive kind of like, we're not very good. I think we win 1 game a season. Good bunch of
And you have got nets here. That's what I heard you say.
We do. Well, actually, we should go.
I seen on Footy Chit Chat, someone was like, is there nets here? And everyone was like, no, there's no nets. Oh, it's a shame, blah, blah, blah. And then someone posted at that multi-sports park, whatever it's called, that there's 3 sets there.
Well, have a look here. Rob CORKIll, who is not the only person involved in Mercury Bay cricket, but he knows his way around the council, and he fucking well led it. So, Rob, how did you organise that for our community? Because it's massive.
Yeah, well, sort of coming here, being a passionate cricketer and having the young sprogs in tow, although at that point they weren't into it, you know, they were just little. But I kind of thought, cricket doesn't seem prevalent in this town. There was a couple of people kind of just keeping the club as I think incorporated in society as an actual entity, so that you don't have to go through that process of formalising a club again. But then with the growth of the town too, we kind of thought there's a bit of a gap there. We had the one artificial pitch at Moai Park, but no training facilities, which makes it a bit hard, particularly for junior cricket. And then it just so seemed with the influx to town and a few passionate people and parents, and we formed a bit of a committee, and I think I was nominated as president. Thought, right, let's we had one person, Sarah Stanley, on our committee, who's an absolute fundraising guru. And then particularly we went to TCDC and said, hey, are there plans in the sports park master plan to build nets? And we found a bit down the end of the netball courts there, squeezed them in and said, can we do this? And Sue Costello from TCDC, absolutely fantastic. And then the funding came up, and TCDC had a bit there too. So I think we ended up having to fundraise a third, and then local contractors, bit of concrete, bit of turf, bit of steel, job done. So it's not hard, I guess. I come from regional council, but having TCDC or district council connections and knowing that process and how funding is allocated, that helps. But sometimes it's the old thing: if you don't ask, then you don't get. And so we did that. Real proactive committee. I mean, I'm president, but I don't do anything, man. The drivers are.
It's disappointing.
I kind of put my 2 cents in, but we might have a meeting every so often. We turn up and have beersies and wines. Well, I can't now. I mean, I have to come and have water or juice or something like that.
Whatever that is.
So is there 3 nets down there or one?
There's
3.
3.
Okay.
3 training nets, and
can anyone use them?
Yeah, open to the public.
So I could
for
walk
sure.
down there like tomorrow and
You go and practice, mate.
no, but not behind lock and key or no.
Originally, there was a gate there to have
That's
one
awesome.
always open to the public, but it became a hassle, like
Yeah,
straight away, like wheeling this thing across the pitch, and it's heavy and falls.
Yeah.
And that eventually changed to the gate just being left open, and that's recently evolved to the gate actually being an extra barrier for bowlers like me. If I experiment with a silly delivery, and it would just fly over the nets and go into the car park.
So they put it up top.
So they did. They've now put that gate equivalent, so you get an extra couple of metres above everything. And especially for kids growing up. I remember growing up with kids trying to experiment. I might bowl 6 balls up high before I realise, I've just got something completely wrong, and then you're fine.
Yeah.
But imagine
And you would
doing
throw it right up like 3 metres in the air. Like up there.
Oh, I'm saying I'd throw it 30 metres away, but it'd be way over the net, across a car park, in a bush, and you can't find it. And so that would stop your practice, would stop the game with your mates. It's just a brilliant system.
Yeah, no, it's cool, and also the two new artificial pitches since that time too. So there's now 3 training nets and 3 artificial playing pitches down at the sports park. Which you look at the mahi that Ryan Eccles, local Sparky, did with Twilight Cricket on a Monday night. 7 teams in the Twilight competition, so so 6 teams playing down there weekly. 1 team has the bye, 8 aside, 16 overs, smash and bash, super social, although competitive but social. Heaps of the tradie lads and real cool vibe. Couple of beers and
He's a nice guy too.
yeah, no, he's a top
So
bloke. So
so that it's well lit enough to be able to play. When you say twilight, is it going on to night time? Like, can you see a cricket ball?
yeah, the idea when you play cricket is that you see the ball. So we, I think, when do we rip into that? Is it November or something like that? Around daylight saving kind of kicks in, and I think we start about 5:30, and because you're playing shorter format games, you're done in a couple of hours, and then we go through to about April or something like that, and it's bloody cool way to spend a Monday night and few yarns and laugh at people who drop the ball. I mean, I've been dropping plenty of catches. So
Fabian,
I never play the Monday league, no. I'm only ever the Sunday 30 overs aside, so I've missed it. I umpired one of your games, actually. It was a good game.
you should come down to Monday Twilight, being that you've been talking a big game.
well, I can't. Can you be just?
You can be a
bowler?
non-cricketer. There's a few guys kicking around that aren't fantastic, but it's not about being fantastic.
Because I have never been known in my entire life as a sportsman.
I can believe it.
No one's ever said like you're a sportsman, you know.
But I think
I'm trying to look at this
in
local
terms
chat,
of being
in case you want to
a
know.
sports person, a lot of it comes down to just growing up and playing games. Because with my older brothers, I'm the youngest of 6. 3 older brothers above me. It'd be cricket, football, jumping on a trampoline, throwing something at each other, or a Zorb mega howler thing. You'd just be doing stuff.
How good are they?
And Monday night just becomes an extension of that. You're a bit older, you're a bit more coordinated onto it, and you want to have a big bash. Well, just you get it out there, and it's just a fun game that you already sort of know how the rules work.
If
So it's not it's just an extension of playing as a kid.
And that sort of probably at some point during this conversation leads us into what we're kind of here to talk about around the whole parenting kind of thing. But you're bang on when you mention play being a precursor to sport or active recreation or something like that. And it's almost as if in this day and age, kids need permission to play, or they need a lot of guidance in how to play, and you've got the whole concept of play-based learning and things like that. And but then also adults needing permission to play too. It's like, oh no, we can't do that because we're adults. Like, well, fuck, really? That's no fun. But you're right, whether it's in the playground or with a stick and or whacking your brother or something like that, it starts with play, and then you form your little groups, and
Was
then
that playing, was it? The stick in my brother.
I definitely think it was.
Yeah, Leo's got a comment here. He says, you guys are looking so good. Oh no, sorry, you guys are so good looking.
Oh,
it's the other way around, yes. And I'm super blind, so cricket's not for me. That's him.
Yeah.
Imagine if we got Leo down to Twilight.
Honestly, if you want to bring anyone who doesn't play cricket or doesn't understand it, because I should say Taylor behind us and Leo are from Brazil. Cricket to them is some sort of kids' street alleyway game that is so low level a game that they laugh at the fact that it's an international sport. Literally, am I right over there on my shoulder?
You are completely right.
I'm surprised he's still awake.
I also I also laugh that it's an international sport, and I live in New Zealand.
Look, cricket is a funny game played by funny people, and you might completely suck at it, but it just hooks you. It just drags you in. I mean, you're a bit like that.
I'm a funny guy and I drag people inside. Yeah. Now I want to jump back. So going back to parenting. So games and fun being the thing that happens. Is this something you think about for school kids, or are you talking earlier where play becomes just such an important part of it?
I think it's the whole way through, right? Because play evolves with age and how kids play at whatever age. I've got 2 boys, 8.5 and recently turned 7. And I look at the way that they play now, and whether it's beating the absolute shit out of each other, which big boy energy, right? They need to get that energy out, because otherwise that presents itself in other ways later on in the day, usually at mum, and mum gets frustrated. So, and also the way that they play, whether it's boys or girls, the way that they play differently, whether it's with dad or with mum or in a group. I can't really comment with girls because there's no girls in our family. I don't know the last thing. If you ask me how to parent girls, I'm like, what's going on here?
I don't think anyone knows, to be honest.
Well, you've got one, mate. Is there much difference? Or yeah,
They are polar opposites,
There you
and
go.
yet incredibly brilliant together.
You don't parent them both exactly the same?
No, not at all. They're completely different children. Like my daughter would love to walk with you, sit in the water and just play with beautiful shells and listen to books over and over again, endless. I'd read 100 books. I think our routine was 4 or 5 books a night, just for the evening books, until she's about 6 or something, because she just would sit there. Whereas my son wants to read the same 2 books over and over again and then play I Spy with it. And then he wants to act out some of it. And it's just a very different interaction with similar mediums. But then, of course they're different, but I think every child's different. Being a teacher, no 2 kids are ever the same. Or maybe they are, but they fit into not 2 patterns or 2 boxes. There's probably 30 different boxes. Well, you're a lot like this kid. And more than often not, once you get your eye in, you can go, actually, they really are, and they do like these things. And you can go, sweet, you're definitely a muso and guitar. Look at these older students, and they want to be like them, and they just, they aspire to that, and they become awesome in that little subfield.
Yeah, and if you provide them the space and care and attention and apply that sort of broad scale brush, and it's sort of like sport, right? You don't want them specialising too early in any given thing. Like I played rugby, so you're going to play rugby. You're probably going to end up with a kid out there who's not enjoying it and is going to drop out of rugby, and you look at participation rates and things like that, which is always challenging and hard. But you're looking at that sort of well-roundedness. Let them have a crack at everything, any opportunity possible, and then, they're going to find their own sort of path down the track. And, it's because my 2 boys, quite different at the same time, but we're a very male-dominated household.
I'm sure your wife loves it.
Oh, she, yeah. It's, there's myself, my 2, Zach and Max, 2 male cats.
Yeah.
And that's they're sort of at that teenager age, if you look at cat age, and they're just dicks. Just dicks.
You may not know, Rob's cats are actually related, the same litter as my cat.
That's right. That's an interesting little connection.
Have you got boy cats as well?
It's a boy cat. He's an asshole, though. He's an absolute prick. These guys got gems that are kind of lovely. Ours would just scratch and bite people.
No, well, ours are cunning, conniving, the whole sort of rip the head off the bird and then leave it in your bed kind of thing. There's been a bit of that going on lately.
At least it's in the bed. My ones put them under the bed or hide it somewhere, and then you find it later on. It's
under
full of
the
maggots.
pillow.
Found one in my shoe the other day. I was getting ready for work and put the old hoof in the shoe, and what's that? And had maggots on it and everything. It was fantastic.
Delicious. Thanks,
Leo did actually also comment saying, when the conversation gets to parenthood, I'd like to know the biggest challenges and differences of raising boys and girls in their opinion. So you guys have pretty much covered that. Just wanted to bring that up that he did ask us.
I think we barely scratched looking at the surface of what it could be.
Look,
such naturals though that we just naturally went on to that line of questioning.
I think when you're looking to explore this topic, we're setting ourselves up for a massive fail, right? Because parenting is, I don't claim to be an expert. I've read a lot about it. I'm really interested in the child psychology. You look at the mahi that a guy like Nathan Wallace, who's like the new age sort of Nigel Latta, is doing around brain development, particularly with boys. I find that stuff fascinating, and I'd encourage any parent, particularly any father, to read into that. And you might not necessarily agree with all of it, and you don't have to, but even if you take one or two things away from that information that is out there, it's going to make you better at what you're doing.
What was this guy's name? Because I just like catching a ball. It might be too late for me. What was the...
Nathan Wallace.
Nathan Wallace.
So, yeah, I think...
Is he Kiwi?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, and he's child psychology kind of guru, kind of taken on over from what Nigel Latta did, what that would have been 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or something like that.
A lot of teachers go on like professional development. He'll run a program for educators and whatnot of how to look at it as a school perspective.
Oh, yeah.
The thing, one of the things that Jess went to see him, I think, over in, might have been Thames or something like that, and he builds up, and he starts off with something quite basic, like he'll ask the question, why do children start school when they turn 5? Why do you think children start school when they turn 5?
I think they should start school when they're 6 for starters, but...
Answer the question.
Because that's what the government tells us.
I may be a little bit off the mark, but my understanding is it dates back to wartime.
Oh, yeah.
Fathers were all away fighting the war, and the mothers were helping with the war effort and needed to get the kids out of the house, and it was just kind of, oh, hey, pick an age. I could be a little bit off the mark. That's my basic understanding of it, but, you know, that, so then it was 5, and then it carried through into generational, 5 years old. But then, and what he goes on, Nathan Wallace goes on to talk about is the scanning of the human brain only became a thing in like the 90s or something, where you could figure out what parts of the brain were firing when. And again, that's different with girls and boys too, because developmentally, say at school age, girls are often picking it up a little bit quicker than what boys are, generally speaking.
Yeah, boys are pretty slow sometimes.
But then it kind of got to the whole thing that the cognitive part of the brain, when it starts to fire, or the brain that is ultimately the learning part, or fires when they're learning, it's not quite set up to go when they're 5. So why are we putting them in that environment if that part of their brain isn't firing and they're not going to get the best out of it? Is it going to be a waste of time for anyone? So it's really interesting stuff when you hear it from a guy like him, break it down. And I mean, one of ours, Zach, I think he turned 5, and then I think it was another at least 6 months before he started, because we just kind of, and obviously having Jess, she's a teacher, librarian currently, but teaching, we kind of sat back and kind of thought, well, he's just not ready, and you could kind of tell. And we were in the position where he could be at daycare for another 6 months or however long it was. But there's also those factors there where parents need to ship them off to school when they turn 5 for economic. They need the money coming in, or they need to go back to work and things like that. So it's a bloody hard one, eh?
Or they're tired, eh? You know, they've been looking forward for 5 years to getting them.
That's it, man. That's it. So,
Yeah.
like I say, by no means an expert. I'm going to present a few opinions and kind of views on it based off what I think is the go. But, you know, and that kind of goes back to that play-based learning too. I mean, ours had the good fortune to attend Riverley Early Childcare Centre out on the 309 Road. The best environment for developing little humans that you could possibly ask for. We were fortunate to get in there with the mahi that Kirsty and the crew out there are doing, and we rate that super high. You know, go eeling, go and light little campfires.
It was something special when we signed up our kids there to go, do you sign a waiver for them to go out on a river? Yes. To light fires? Yes. To go out camping and climb trees? Yes. And they just do all these outside, so many forms to sign off, because of course we do that, but there's so many barriers that early learning childhood centres have to try and push against for kids to be able to experience, you know, what we had back in our day of, you know, being able to go outside and actually just play. And so as soon as we signed those forms, we was going, this is brilliant. Our kids are going to be out in life jackets, eeling on a raft, being pulling themselves around on a chain or with sticks at 4 or 3. Oh.
That's way better than just being in town. Nothing against the daycares in town or anything, but
because you can't criticise what other people don't have access to, and they will make the absolute best out of what they have.
Yeah.
But what that team have happened to create out there down the 309 is a stunning example
how
of something.
old is that school? Do you guys know?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not too sure, but if you look at a lot of the kids coming out of Riverley and then attending Buku Bay Area School, for example, who in my opinion, actually do that transition year from daycare to whatever year zero year. They do that really well. And there's a lot of play-based learning at MBAS too, and it's just a natural kind of transition to what they have been doing to what they're doing in school. But you look at some of those Rivoli kids in terms of their natural risk assessment, their resilience, their confidence and stuff like that, like it's just natural for them. And, just barefoot, charging, get stoned by a bee, don't worry about it. Well, I was fortunate. I mean, I grew up on a farm, so I had that stuff on the back doorstep, and that's what I knew anyway. And then I've become kind of more urbanised, but when the opportunity came up for our kids, and no-brainer, absolute no-brainer. So if you have the opportunity to, something like that, won't regret it.
Yeah, I think I've probably mentioned on here before, but my kids went to one over in Raglan, Matapihi, and they, thanks. And they, it was a similar style of kindy, and they had one day a week that you spent outside, rain or shine, and that was it. Like you went, they called it this bush kindy, and you just went and you hung out in the bush, and it could be literally like blowing a gale, hailing, raining, and they'd be building like little bivvies and under the trees and stuff like that. And it made you actually go, I feel like I'm actually doing something right for once, which is bizarre. I mean, maybe someone who's born and raised in the middle of a city might not have that same sort of perspective.
I mean, you're a product of the environment that you're raised in, right? I think the record for us when the boys got home from Rivoli one day, and this is a few years back now, but I think the record was 7 changes of muddy clothes that they'd been through. And I just remember laying these clothes out on the driveway, and I'm talking muddy. I'm talking the clothes are nearly unrecognisable. They're just caked, and just get the hose out, flush it out, then chuck them in the wash. But that's a good day, right? Like if you go through 7 changes of clothes, you're just ripping and you're making mudslides down into the river, and that's all good stuff. So
So you talked earlier about how there may be some sort of contentious things, and people online that will say, oh, you can't say this and that. And I have a general argument to say about anyone that wants to criticise anything that's said in this. As a parent, if you are looking into different ways of being a better parent and making an effort, you are already achieving something really good. You're already making more of an effort than some people get in the world. So as a baseline, we're already doing better than some situations where either the parent's not there or the parent is absent due to various kinds of reasons, war-torn country. There's all kinds of reasons why people wouldn't have a male figure in their life. That's a big topic in the world as fathers at the moment.
Like raised by 2 mums.
If you want to interpret it in that way, absolutely. But the idea is that if you're making an effort to be a better parent at whatever stage of parenting you're doing, good, well done, that's great. It can only be better to improve your knowledge and to try harder and to demonstrate that with your kids. There you go. Fight against that, pricks.
You've only got X number of years to kind of nail it before they're kind of gone, So it's kind of like anything, and you're kind of spot on. It's that continuous improvement. It's like if you're at work or with sport or whatever, you're trying to get better. And it's a bloody tough gig, and I don't mean to talk about parenting as a job, but you look at a single parent, mum or dad or whatever, you basically got, to put it bluntly, half the tools there to do the job, right? You're a music teacher, do you turn up and you got half of what you need to do your job? No. Look at builders, or maybe the apprentice turns up with half his tools, but that's a different story. If you're lacking half of that's bloody hard. But obviously, the single parents out there doing a bloody outstanding job and raising some top humans. And I've seen it in junior sport, particularly with boys as a coach. Some of them are just looking for that really strong male kind of mentorship. And particularly, and I look at the age of my boys, and this is going back to that Nathan Wallace thing now, around that age of 7 to 8, where they start to gravitate to dad more. And I'm noticing that with my 2 now. Mum is always going to be there, and mum will always be the constant. And when shit gets really bad, they gravitate to mum. That's a given, right? But they get to a point where something in their brain, it's dad stuff. And some mums find that quite hard. And then you look at the sprogs out there whose dad isn't on the scene, or they don't have that strong male mentor in their life, and you can tell that there's something missing. And I've been fortunate enough, and every kid that I've coached in junior sport, whether it's football, rugby, cricket, whatever, bloody awesome kids, and it's cool making that connection with those kids and actually just helping sort of guide them in a positive way, I guess, because those positive male role models are crucial. That whole bridge to adolescence thing from the age of 7 or 8 right through to 13, pretty key time, particularly in a boy's life, you know. So, and if there's a gap there, how do we fill it? And that sort of goes back to the whole takes a village to raise a family kind of thing, or child or whatever, right? Just identifying those positive male community role models, and how we can connect those that are maybe lacking that, set them up with that to set them on a positive path forward. So, yeah.
It's interesting, the male role model being so significant, and yet males being so underrepresented in education. You know, when your kids go to school 8 hours a day, I think we're down to 2 in the primary school now, at our local school. 5 years ago there was 5, I think, and that's quite high in terms of ratio.
Why do you think that?
I don't know. Is it just an unappealing career? Is it the money thing? Is it viewing
I've heard
primary education?
I've heard a few different things on that. Quite interesting.
Are they specific rumours to our school, or is just the idea of
no,
males in
not to your
education?
school, just in
Go
general.
and hit it.
Yeah.
Yes, with rumours. I love it.
I don't know if it's so much rumours, but like you've obviously got all the super positive aspects of like the feminist movement, and then you've got some of the more downsides, from what I understand, which are like encouraging a lot of women to get into jobs that that might have been male dominated in the past, and then you end up skewing the, you know, by you skew the ratios by encouraging that. Not saying that it was a bad thing, but it's sort of like now it almost needs to go back the other way, not on the feminist movement side, but like to go, okay, we need to actually encourage more men to get back into this because the things are being seen to be skewed. I listened to this TED talk on it. It's quite interesting.
I'm not an educational expert or historian in it, but I also wonder if there's a lot of things that there is quite a lot more men in education when it comes to specific subject areas that someone might have really honed in on as a specific skill, whereas maybe men just don't want to be masters of none, in the sense that they have to teach every single possible thing, and they're so well spread out they don't get to focus on something, because maybe men like to tinker on one little project a bit more. Hey, you criticise me for that online. I know that's coming up.
It's an interesting one, because when I reflect back on my primary school years, and I would have been standard 1 in the old speak, and so maybe a similar age to at least what one of my boys is now, and that year was my only male primary school teacher, and that was a brilliant year. Peter Mayer was his name. I think he went on to become principal of Matamata Primary School. But I think being a boy, you've got that instant kind of connection with a male teacher or educator anyway. I mean, it wasn't just in the classroom. He was out at lunchtime playing rugby with us and cricket with us, and you develop, I'm not sure if it's more of a personal kind of relationship. It's just a different connection. And the female teachers that I had were quality educators, but there was something missing there. So I still have vivid memories of Peter, and even later on in life. One thing I probably remember most is even being at that age, he would treat you like, or show you the level of respect like you were older. And I remember talking to him, I bumped into him on the golf course years later. I would have been 17 or 18 or something, and we had a yarn about that, just how he made you feel 12 foot tall. And
Well, for you, that's not much.
I've totally segued by the length of these golf clubs you're using too. I just
you just make do, mate. Otherwise, it becomes expensive. But I just he was just that type of guy that pumped you up, and particularly boys in the classroom, if they were struggling, he had that knack of kind of getting them on track or giving them the confidence to at least have a go. Because I think that's a big issue too, is that confidence. They're not trying because they're scared of failure. Going back to the parenting thing, and that message around failure or risk or whatever is being instilled quite early. And that's a real bugbear of mine. And there was an example the other day. We were down at the beach doing a family mission, and boys were charging or something like that. And I observed another family, dad and his daughter, and the daughter was getting quite close to the water. Like, you come to the beach, right? So there's water, It was, don't get too close. oh no, don't do that because that might happen or that might happen. And there's that real risk adverse kind of vibe going on. And for me, it's a whole lot of negative chat and negative words that she'll be receiving that constantly. And over time, that's going to manifest in something else, or not willing to have a crack or try or take risks. And that's pretty detrimental. That's really detrimental. And you don't want to be the judgy parent thing and kind of say you're doing it wrong, because that's a minefield again. But what if he allowed her to have a crack, or maybe push her boundaries a bit more, or get wet and actually learn a life lesson that if you get a wet ass down on the beach and you didn't pack a change of clothes, well, it's going to be an uncomfortable trip home. I spent about half an hour the other day vacuuming sand out the back of my wagon in preparation for work, because that was my kids over the Christmas break. Oh, did you bring a spare change of clothes? No, well, wet trip home. And they're used to that now, and that's just them building up and just learning those little lessons on how to make themselves more comfortable.
It's interesting you talk about your primary school teacher, because I got put in Mr. Norman's class at primary school, and I think he may have been the first male teacher I had. And a vivid memory is that one of his punishments, or if you're just too fidgety or whatever, he'd just say, go run around the field. And that was one thing. But if they were too fidgety and keep annoying, go take your chair with you. So they had to run with their chair and run around the field. It's 400 metres or so to get all the way around there with the chair. And then I remember at some point in stormy weather, it didn't matter, like it's pouring with rain. Look, all right, it's not working. They take the sliding bit out of your desk. Go take your desk around. And this kid, obviously wasn't me, I was an angel student, I was perfect. But shut up. But I remember this kid just trying to run with their desk. And, we're in primary school. They might have been year 6, and they could carry it. But can you carry a desk comfortably in the rain for 400 or so metres without wanting to break it or drag it? And yet it wasn't a punishment. It was a cool little challenge.
Exactly.
And it was a positive thing. And you get back and they're like, well done, that looks awesome. Here's a towel, dry off your desk. We're just moving on to this.
So he was using that as a behaviour management technique just to get that boy energy out. Like you think of a classroom boy sitting in there getting fidgety. They've got that big boy kind of energy coming out, and you've got limbs flying. They can't control their bodies half the time, man. Like somebody's going to get a whack in the face, or something's going to get thrown, and they're going to...
Some grown men can't control their bodies.
Good.
Often.
Go for a run around the field. If it's not that challenging, take a chair with you. Perfect. Come back and try to behave like a normal person. That's really cool. That's really cool.
I just want to model something. Brett, I'm really sorry for smacking you on the arm. It was uncalled for.
That's all right.
I hope you're not going to be up
I
hating
accept
me.
your apology.
Thank you for accepting my apology. I appreciate how you accepted it willingly the first time.
What I hear though, the value in having such good teachers though, right? Like I didn't have until high school. I had some good teachers in high school, and in the Form 3's high school, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah, 9.
Yeah. Didn't have that greater ones when we were coming through. They were just grumpy old men, And I think that hearing the value in having an enthusiastic, or like you say, a teacher who comes out and plays rugby, just shout out to all the teachers out there that are doing something like that. Fucking good on you,
Bring back bull rush. Bring back bull rush, Like Timmy might break his arm, but he ain't dead, So
broken bones happen.
Well, that's it. But and going back to the whole village to raise a child thing, it's the teachers, it's the coaches, it's the parents, it's the whoever. It's the neighbour who hands them a pack of sausages over the fence, or a fillet of snapper or something like that. And we need to. We're a risk adverse society anyway, and tend to be cautious around other people, or we're wrapping them up in bubble wrap. And maybe there's cause and reason for that, and maybe there's not. But you need to push the boundaries out a bit sometimes. That's how you're going to learn as a mentor and parent. That's how the kid's going to learn. And
Well, there's an unnamed school that I can't talk about my name, but they have
Mercury Bay Area School.
No. I can't talk about it.
Okay.
But there's an unnamed school that I know that on
it's
a
quite
camp.
mysterious.
On a camp, there was like an arm wrestling competition to fill in like a 15-minute gap between whatever events were going on. And the teachers had to intercept and go, it's not on the RAMS form. If a kid gets a broken arm or a twisted or an injury from doing arm wrestling, it would fall back on the teachers. And that's not necessarily an issue for those teachers at that school. It's the issue from above those teachers, where they have to have their, do they need to have those 50 forms? And do you give permission for your child to arm wrestle, or to run barefoot, or to play catch with a ball, or to use a basketball hoop at a school? And how many things do you sign? Can't we just say, do you give them permission to do things that they would do at home, like play on concrete or grass with normal amounts of risk, i.e. not climbing higher than 3 meters of anything?
Is that, though, like, I get that we've got all these rules and regulations in place, but, like, are they being who enforces that? I mean, if something went wrong, like, is anyone actually getting sued or in trouble? I mean, I'm asking from a place of ignorance.
I think the worst case scenario of it going wrong has been where students have drowned. And it's recently happened a couple of times in New Zealand in the last 10 years or so, where the school has gone swimming where it was agreed they would swim in that area with the lifeguards present during those hours of the day. The lifeguards weren't there between the flags that were there. And they went out swimming anyway, with the teachers doing the supervision and the da-da-da. And yet that incident happened. Now that immediately, according to the hierarchy it goes through, falls back on the teacher in charge of that trip at that school, and the principal was directly accountable for $500,000 personally, not based on the school. So the personal, and I think it's $50,000 or $75,000 for the teacher in charge of the trip, personal responsibility. I don't know where the money goes to. I'm hoping it goes to the deceased family if there was to be any sort of resolution for it.
I'm sure it doesn't.
But like
so I get what you're saying.
So financial burden is a thing, but it's also you don't want to be the person who was in charge of something when somebody died.
That's a bit unfair on a principle, but like the teacher in charge, just they have to take responsibility then, don't they? I would just be like, oh well, like I'll just roll with the punches. The odds are someone's not going to die, so I won't have to cough out $75,000.
The thing is, we seem to have created this climate that exactly, it's sort of teaching in fear almost, and it kind of stems from there's been incidents that have happened that are terrible. You look at how often they occur, not
outside of the school.
But if a teacher has got a whole class swimming without lifeguards, and it obviously was dangerous because someone drowned, it's sort of like, well, to be fair, that teacher shouldn't have done that. Like, they need to maybe educate the teacher better on when they can get kids swimming or not.
But there's also the, something happens, whether it's a broken arm or something to your child at school because they're playing bull rush or rugby or something, or just being a kid, right? They break their arm. Generally speaking, I mean, it might kind of suck, but most parents with half a brain, you'd like to think, be like, hey, these things happen. Then you get whatever tiny percentage it is, it ends up in the courts, or it's a massive overreaction. And this type of kind of red tape or rules and regulations come into schools essentially as an ass-covering exercise to protect them from that, which is sad. But there's also people out there that are looking to chuck people under the bus because something happened to young Julia or Timmy or whatever. And then the school has been absolutely, shafted. And now because the majority of schools, you've got the Ministry of Education sitting on top, that's a fairly risk-adverse beast right there. So this is what you have to do to mitigate that risk. It comes down to risk mitigation, which should never be like that. But that's where we're living. So
well, that's generally how the forms work. So if I want to take at my own school, if I want to take a trip to the beach, and so I want to walk with my groups, each of the activities involved in making it to the beach and then the activities at the beach will have a risk assessment where it's red, the risk is very high of certain death, and then it works backwards from there. It's very high of possible injuries, solutions, mitigation. Or low chance of a low-level thing happening. So what are you going to do? Bring a first aid kit, have a cell phone on you. And so every part of the trip, and as I said, at that other school that I won't talk about by name, with that arm wrestling thing, it just seemed so stupid at the time that, even the teacher was joining in and having fun until they realised another teacher
winning all the arm wrestles, I'm guessing, if the teacher was joining in.
You'd
hope
that.
So, yeah.
But also there's that line or that situation where something might have happened to a kid or a student as a result of them just being a complete muppet, which is a consequence of the parents not doing their job, right? Actions and consequences. And, like that happens all the time, but then the school is blamed, or why aren't our teachers teaching the kids respect, or why aren't the teachers teaching them this? Well, that's at home, mate. You jump on social media or anything that kind of flares up about schools, and there's people on there saying the teachers need to do more of this, they need to do more of that. Jess has seen it all. I mean, she's 15 years inside and outside of the classroom and education. You know, she's had to, not here, in another region. Kid comes to school in his pyjamas because he's got no clean clothes. Parents are asleep. They've been at the pub all night. Drug abuse, things like that. He's got no lunch. He's not learning in the classroom, mainly because he's hungry. So she...
And embarrassed.
Yep. And so she rips down to the local Foursquare, pot of jam, thing of bread, feed him up. Behaviour in the afternoon, funnily enough, changes, you know. And shouldn't be like that, but that's sort of where we're at in some areas.
There's been several occasions in the last 8 years I've been teaching, and not just in Mercury Bay, but I'd be driving somewhere, see a student who's on their phone, and they just walk across the road in front of me, and I have to sort of slam on the brakes and swerve around. Now, if the headline is "Teacher runs over student," like, what? No. Student does not learn to stop looking at their phone, or they shouldn't have their phone. But that happening, say, on a school trip, teacher allows student to not follow and get hit by a car on the road. You go, I didn't teach the student to look at their phone and to not look left and right. If I need to run a workshop at school of how to cross a road with a senior class, then there's something wrong before it gets to me. You would hope. But the headline wouldn't say that. On the social media would go, boom. That's why I'm not on social media. That's not the main reason.
What is the main reason?
2017, I returned to New Zealand. My first event was my cousin's wedding down near Wellington. And I hadn't seen most of them for 2.5 years. And we had nothing to talk about. I knew what they'd eaten. They'd seen all the things of my daughter growing up. They knew where I'd lived. And it was just talking about stuff we had all spoke. And I just got, that night I said, Tara, my wife, this is awful. And I tried to delete my Facebook at the wedding. And then it didn't let me. It gave me like a 30-day, if you want to change your mind, period of time. And then after that, it gave me another 30-day. Don't worry, for the next 3 months, if you contact and click this link, we'll access everything as if you've never gone. I wanted to delete it. It took me a long time to get rid of my Facebook.
You don't really do small talk well either. Hey, it kind of has to be more meaningful chat. I've tried to engage in small talk with you, and you're generally quite dismissive.
It's mostly because I have a sore neck. It's just, altitude sickness sometimes, I guess.
I'll sit next time. Sorry, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You're actually doing remarkably well. Like these thrones you're in, the ALTBAYS studio here in Whitianga is an amazing studio. How are you finding the throne?
I was about to say, the vibe I'm getting is, the whole Zach Galifianakis between two ferns thing? There's that. But there's also, this is a bloody nice studio, and that's coming from the perspective of somebody who's never been in one. So I'm making the assumption that there's a lot of studios that are quite shit. So there's that too. But no, between two ferns, you got a bit of vegetation. You got you got Lizzie in the corner over there, and I've got you two gents, and I've got Uncle Dunkle.
Just a hat.
Just a hat that moves. We just check that he's awake. No, it's cool. What sort of timber is this desk?
I don't know the timber. It's from Cora Wood. Taylor, do you want to give us the deets from your lovely little extra mic?
Probably pine, man. I don't
It's
know.
not pine.
I was going to ask you, is it native or exotic? It's got a native feel to it.
Damn, I'll be ashamed now. I don't know.
No, I don't know.
It's grass, bamboo. No, probably. Leo's going to comment at some point going, for fuck's sake, it's Remu or something.
I don't know. I actually don't know what it is.
It's got a coldy kind of vibe going on.
I'm not a man who knows wood. I don't often look at wood.
You don't know wood? It's quite,
You see,
you guys have done a good job, or Leo's done. No, you guys have done a good job here.
No, we're just volunteers. I can't take any credit for this space.
You just turn up and.
I literally turn up. We've had a few guests that have come on, or people that want to come and have a chat with us that have run their own podcast series or have been involved in film and media, and they walk in and they instantly go, "Oh, this is right." And then they look at our gear and they're looking at all the placements and the heights, and they just keep nodding their approval, going, like, this is an amazing setup. You guys must be millionaires.
It's not just a bedroom.
Yeah, it's not a bedroom, it's not a garage, it's not a kitchen that they're setting up with just a... If you have a microphone that looks like a singer's microphone, then it is a singer's microphone. This is the real for shizzle. I think this might have been modelled a bit off the Joe Rogan podcast. You may have heard of it. It's it's known. But having good gear with great people and cool people to talk to makes a nice environment.
I'm learning quite a bit.
Oh, we haven't even talked about abortion yet. No, I'm only joking.
It's one of those taboo topics. Now, you said you had a couple of gems, actually, that you wanted to go over. So parenting things that you've sort of learnt or discovered in your 8.5 years or so that are things that stood out for you as a parent to go, and that was really good to learn or know, and it'd be cool if other people knew it too. What were some of those gems you had bottled up?
The gems I have bottled up, and I'm just talking about raising boys, right? Like I said, girls, no idea. But for me, and I mean, parenting, learning every day. My ultimate goal when I get out of bed in the morning is, if by the end of the day the lads are pumped up, foaming at the mouth, fizzed about the day that they've had, sweet as. Very rarely do I get there, but it's a whole what you shoot for the stars, and if you miss, you kind of land somewhere else. But
that was really deep. Thanks for that.
Yeah,
we'll use that as a clip on the Swipey Land stuff.
That
Swipe.
You kind of land somewhere, but even if you're halfway, you're probably doing a pretty good job. But we kind of chuck them into bed at night, and we have a bit of a debrief, right? Like, how was your day? Yeah, what was the best thing about your day? And you know, like if you're doing that in the evening and you ask your kid, did you have a good day? And they're like, no, it was shit. Then you probably need to take a good hard look at yourself. But I'm kind of going off on a tangent. The thing with boys is, and Jess and I complement each other really well in our parenting style, and you need to kind of realise and appreciate that in a team kind of environment, working as a team. Like I said earlier, the way I play with them is a lot different to the way she does. She doesn't do the physical argy-bargy stuff. She's more the kind of intellectual, artistic things like that, whereas the lads, we're just beating up on each other. But it's important that we do that in order for them to get their energy out, and also the play fighting, the wrestling, the rugby, the sport, stuff like that, all of the physical stuff, they're learning boundaries with that all the time. So that's a big thing for me, and if we don't do that on the daily, and they get a couple of days sort of pent up where they haven't gotten that energy out with me, their behaviour just, and there's something in that, if they're not getting that dad time or learning those boundaries and having that kind of connection with dad, you're going to see that behaviour, or like I said earlier, that energy present itself in other ways that probably aren't fantastic, particularly when you get into the back end of the day, the old witching hours when you're tired and a bit cranky anyway.
Breaking windows, smacking walls, hitting bushes,
trying to get them in the shower.
Yeah.
Trying to get them out of the shower.
Just being pesty, like, you know, it's winding each other up. They're pretty good at that, but you know, that's brothers, and older brother learns, and younger brother especially learns pretty quick.
Is there any coaching involved in, say, the wrestling? Like, you're having a bit of a bash up, do you bring in a bit of like, what if you just get a bit wider, get a bit lower, now try again, and they might go, oh, sheesh. That makes a difference. We reinforce the wrestling rules at the beginning of every session, which sounds kind of weird, but we have to do it because otherwise it kind of gets a little bit loose. It's sort of protect the head, neck and face. And the genital region.
Yeah, that's sort of coming into it too. Don't dick flick them. No kicking. Kicking's nasty. Get your feet out of it, you know. And the rest is pretty much fair game. And they...
Oh, you can use a chair and hit them. Give him the chair. You didn't specify this time, Dad.
Check in with Dad before any materials are used. Don't wrestle in the pool. Like, don't wrestle in the pool, please. But it's all good stuff. But they're learning all the time, and they're learning more about their boundaries the bigger they get. Like, my two are quite big kids, but Zach in particular being the eldest, and he seems to have grown and gone up another gear in terms of his strength and physical capability, and he's learning that boundary now, how hard he can push with his younger brother, and his younger brother's also kind of learning it. And the big thing is with the wrestling is actually communicating and actually saying like, ow, ow, don't like it, or, you know, just use a few words to, you know, kind of get yourself out of a situation that might not be so fantastic. So, but that's every day. Like, it's different every day. They're learning every day. I'm learning every day. But allow them that avenue to get their energy out, because otherwise...
And you let them win? And to beat you, if it's a 2-on-1 or 1-on-1, do you let them win?
It's an interesting one, turning it into a competition, at what age you kind of do that. And they're getting to the point now where they are competitive. They've got my genetics, and the CORKILL genes are pretty competitive, so that was going to be like that regardless. But it's also trying to educate them on the fact that, hey, it's not all about that, and it's just about having a good time with your mate. So you
win every time and you don't let them win?
Pretty much, man. Like, just, it's that whole alpha male thing. Just dominate. just dominate.
You're just waiting for the tides to turn. In 5 years, they'll both be 6'4", and then eventually they'll just team up on you, take you down.
It won't be too far away. Like backyard cricket is played viciously, like long run up, bowl at pace. If you can't hit the ball, that's not my problem. No, it's I think that's the thing with, and going back to the male role model thing, they're seeing me applying boundaries too. And like Zach, like I mentioned with the older brother and the wrestling gig, learning his boundaries, well, it's modelling, right? Like I'm modelling that I am restraining myself in a situation where I'm wrestling with them, because otherwise I'm going to hurt them. So, I mean, it sounds pretty basic, but yeah.
And you voice it.
Yep, or sort of see what I did there, mate, or maybe this is how we can do it next time. And like, it ends in tears a lot. There's a whack of heads, or someone gets an accidental elbow to the nose or something like that, but that happens. You know, the other option is not do it.
You actually have a remarkably straight nose for somebody that does a lot of wrestling and fighting. Well done.
I can't breathe through one nostril. But
is there a backstory there? I want to know about this.
Oh, look, it's cool. I don't think there is, man. I've always struggled just to breathe through one, and maybe I need to go get it checked.
My older brother Tom is the same. He lived in China in the middle of the winter at one point. People were, blowing steam and licking frozen things, and he was going, and he only had one nostril sort of chimneying, and he wasn't blocked. And apparently it became a big joke while he was there for years that he only had one nostril that breathed through. So shout out Tom. My family's not watching. I've only revealed to a few of them I do this, so. You won't mind.
So you can talk about them as much as you want.
That's it.
Yeah.
I should probably get the nostril situation checked, because my older brother, he's right into the long distance running type thing, like ultra marathons, did the 100K and do this, and like he just does it for fun. And it kind of just makes me sick thinking about it. Like I only run if I'm chasing food or being chased by something. I was a short distance athlete at school, and then I just run out of puff, and it might be a result of that. So maybe I should get it checked. Or
did you happen to have like a sister or someone in your family that had beads a lot when you were little, and maybe it's a result of bead stuffing? Yeah, because that stuff happens.
Yeah, no, you'd be surprised what you can squirrel. That's a word I find hard to pronounce. Squirrel. I think
Squirrel.
I did. Yeah.
I believe Leo pronounced like CORKILL. CORKILL. Like,
yeah, that was
Rob CORKILL.
Yeah.
Like CORKILL. I like it.
Yeah. No, it's I might try and roll with that, but I think with my tone or my voice, and it's a whole Darth Vader kind of it'll sound weird anyway.
I was going to say, I've been enjoying your voice on the show the whole night, because it is rich, resonant. It is so deep and it's powerful.
I don't think I sound like that. When you guys are used to it, but you hear yourself sort of played back, and you're like, nah.
It's funny, eh?
It's weird.
Because I actually often try and impersonate you locally in the community. Like, you guys know Rob. Yeah, but how you doing now? There's sort of this big, massive voice. But I'm not getting it. You're so resonant.
Why don't you just talk like that?
It's just not natural. I'm a tenor when I sing. I sing, hi. I'll try to do that. It's just not natural. I can't have the resonance. It's not me.
Fair enough.
And I'm not a phony. Good chat, good segue.
Yeah, no, I can't impersonate anyone other than myself. It's just the whole voice.
Could you do Stallone? Because if you sort of just slack jaw one side, block your other nostril, close one of your eyes, and call out Adrian. Adrian!
It's kind of just I've been watching something with him, and recently I stumbled across Tulsa King.
I don't know it.
Tulsa King. Yeah, it's made by the guy. Have you heard of what's the Western one? Yellowstone.
No.
The guy that did Yellowstone, he's done Tulsa King with Sly Stallone in it. Not bad. This whole kind of mafia kind of vibe and all that stuff going on. But no, he's into it.
Is this an old Stallone, a new release?
New?
No,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Quite new.
As in an old man Stallone, I should say.
Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah.
Can't imagine. He must be riveting an old Sylvester Stallone, right?
I knew we were going to cover a diverse range of topics when I entered the studio, and we are just, let's talk about that and that and that, and we are just, yeah.
Well, I think we avoid the interview format because it just gets a bit boring just talking to each other. So, now can you tell us about your high school education? And then we sit back and lean and twiddle our fingers.
Scripted.
We actually did begin early in the season. We had not a script, but like a talk about their history, find out where they're from, find out about their family, their big interests, their, wherever they travelled. And I think within the first 5 minutes of the first show, it just got crushed up and just dropped on the floor. And I remember seeing it on the floor going, it's gone. It didn't work.
scripted.
Because you talked about having the boundaries of play, and I did not have boundaries of play when I was younger with water play. And I have this horrific memory of I used to play water polo. I don't know why, but in Hamilton there was a big Tarapa pools, and you play a game, and I'd
Great.
learn to
Pools.
swim. So much fun to play. And everyone on the team was like, oh, we'll all trial for Waikatos. Sure, we'll all trial for the the elite team. None of us were going to get in it, but it was just sort of fun to see what that was like. But the joshing and playing and wrestling side of it, don't wrestle in the water, you said. I remember an American boy, and I can't remember his name, but his mum was a teacher. Mudgway. Emma Mudgway was a teacher. The boy Mudgway, what a prick back then. But the whole game was throw the ball, one person swim away, other person try and catch them after a few beeps. And he was a rep swimmer. He caught me within seconds, and then he pushed me under. But then he put his feet on my shoulders, and this is in the 5 metre pool thing. He then kicked me under to the bottom, and I've never done that before. I didn't have this relationship with this kid, and I had no lung. I was vomiting out water and coughing out water because I'd never been that deep in water without expecting it to happen. And I stopped. There was the end of my water polo. I said, "Fuck this!" It was a horrible experience with an asshole that did that on purpose, but maybe he just didn't know the boundaries.
Tough it up, bro.
Toughen up.
Toughen up. Adverse experience resulting in a lack of participation stemming from that, right? Yeah.
And yet, had someone been there for me, going like, "No, look, it was shit. It was a dumb move.
Yep.
But let's get back in." And I didn't have that.
Yep.
Again, my father was dead at the time, so maybe I didn't have the motivation. Maybe I didn't have the father figure.
This is
Damn.
this is junior rugby. Last season, something that occurred in a game. I think it was Waihi and somebody else. And this is the grade that my kids are playing, right? So year 3, which is first year tackle. And there was a team where the coach was encouraging, and he had some bigger kids on his team, like our Mercury Bay team, usually small, kind of physically. I think the heaviest was 27 kilos, and you come up with the odd team, they've got kids that are pushing 40, so size kind of wins. But there's this one coach encouraging his team to shoulder charge the opposition, so illegal tackles, and when it happened, he was kind of having a bit of a chuckle, and it was just getting dangerous, right? So those are his boundaries, and his team are learning off that. And it's like, what? These kids are 6, 7, 8 years old, and there's that going on. So, and you'd like to think that that's pretty uncommon, and I think it is, but there's still that kind of element kind of out there. And you think about the kids that's happening to. Are they going to come back next season? Question mark.
I didn't.
Yeah. Yep. There you go. There you go.
Seeing you as a coach out there, you have quite a cool relationship where you're like, no, we've got to sit and listen, and when you're listening, the game begins, and the incentive to listen, and then you're all gonna race over there and do that as a warm up, and the kids run away as we get gear ready or set up cones for a cricket session, and it's a lot of small fun activities. I remember, I think 2 of the trainings wasn't a game. It was smack a ball as hard as you can off a tee, throw a ball to your mate and try and catch it, or dive roll, or race someone to a ball, and it was little small micro bits of a. There's
a lot of data and insights from professional people involved in the sport and rec sector around different ages of sports and how you coach and things like that. I mean, I'm probably fortunate in that coaching comes pretty naturally to me. I enjoy the kids. I mean, it's probably my kind of maturity level. I can sort of drop down to their level pretty quickly anyway. The listening thing that you mentioned is a non-negotiable for them to get everything they need out of it, and for me to get what I need to get out of it. But the short, sharp stuff, you think about the grade that we're coaching year 3, year 4, and you think about the attention span of those kids, and you have them for 1 hour. Are you going to spend that doing the same thing and just bowling repetitively in the nets? Or I think we go 10, maybe 15 minutes with different drills and things like that, and then just charge off somewhere else, or go and chase the birds and pick a few flowers for 5 minutes, go grab a drink, come back. Do you have a smile on your face? Yep, let's go. And a lot of it might not be, take cricket for example, it might not be cricket specific, but there's still skills that they're learning that if they choose to play in future years, they can still apply it to their game, just around coordination, things like that. So the big thing, like junior sport, it's about smiles on faces and getting them back the following season, right? It ain't rocket science. It is not rocket science. And fortunate here in a small town where we've got a pretty good community volunteer coach network, some pretty dedicated people. That's always the challenge, finding those volunteers. but also our team or squad sizes are relatively small as well. Like if you've got a whole bunch of kids, that's a different story. But then you look at the mahi that the likes of Thames Valley Rugby Union did with their junior rugby. I think junior rugby participation increased last season by something like 30% as a result of changes they put in place around, rather than little first year tackle guys having 12 or 15 players on the field and 3/4 of the team don't touch the ball because the game is dominated by the kids that at that age and stage are genetically just a bit more physically advanced.
The best.
Yep.
Yeah.
But they basically said, well, you can drop your squad down to 7 players, you can play sevens. And we're not going to have scrums, we're not going to have lineouts, because what's the point? It's tap, pass, run. 7 aside, basically. Or you could have 8 or you could have 10 on the field, depending on how. But they capped the squad sizes and made those smaller teams, and you had kids getting the ball in their hand and running with the ball. And that is the goal. And from day dot to the end of the season, really, really cool. So like good on, like, and that's starting to filter through right across the country, not just Thames Valley doing it. And you look at opportunities for other sports and things as well. And also sort of thinking outside the box a little bit. If you look at junior football, for example, quite a long season, and it covers several kind of like back end of term 1 through, I think, term 3. Rugby was done and dusted in term 2. You know, first weekend of term 2, first game, you're done by the back end. Relatively short season, but the kids got heaps out of it. Then I had rugby kids asking me, can we play football? And we're like, well, no, you can't, because you weren't registered at the start of the season. But what if? What if, say, one did one term, one did the other term? Football has a shorter season, and then you get increased membership and participation in both codes. Go figure.
It's a good idea.
Just spitballing, but yeah, worth a thought. But then you've got the regional sporting organisations that have to, you know, give that the tick and things like that. So
is there something to do with the? I'm going to go to cricket, but also to the rugby sevens, like the shorter form, smaller, snappier broadcasting, the exciting versions of the games that are, you know, it's not a 5-day test match or again 15 players in each team and they're swapping out, or even American football where there's a whole team for defence and a whole team for attack and a whole kicking team. Like it's absurd shit that goes on in so many sports. Is the smaller, high broadcasting rights, money earning sort of sports, do you reckon that's filtering down to the kids' version where the kids watch this and they will be able to watch it 2020, so that locks in? Or the sevens, it's so bloody short, it's exciting the whole time, that's going to target the kids.
Yep. I think to some extent it is. I think about playing backyard cricket with my turn. They just want to smash the shit out of the ball anyway, which is great. See the ball, hit the ball. You know, I'm not going to coach them technical stuff, A, because I don't know too much about the technical stuff, but B, you kind of want them having fun. But they've been watching a few highlights of the Big Bash in Aussie, and you know,
Sorry,
you get it.
You've been watching a few highlights of the Big Bash and they've been watching it with you? Please continue.
Yeah. But they're seeing that on telly. They're seeing guys like Chris Hill and Ben McDermott, guys that's going absolutely nuts, who have the talent to hit the ball a very long way. They want to apply that in the backyard. You think about that longer term as they develop, you know, those shorter formats are pretty attractive. Is that going to change how the sport is going to look at the professional level down the track? You mentioned test match cricket. It's sort of my belief that you're still going to have players coming through that want to literally test themselves. You say test match, that's what it is, at that longer format of the game. The shorter formats aren't going to suit everyone. Tough one to answer, and it's sort of crystal ball gazing a bit. But
what would you say then is the more fun, exciting version of something like golf? Are you swinging off a golf cart? Like you have to finish your 18 holes in 18 minutes, and so they literally build in a golf cart track, and that, you know, covers each hole. So not everyone's just driving around each other. You got to follow a track. You got 18 minutes, and there's overtaking rules, and damn.
well, is like speed golf a thing? Like it might already
I have
be a
no
thing.
idea.
or-
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Might be.
Bugger.
But you
I don't know if
mentioned
it's golf carts with a golf cart track though, or anything like that. But
Next level.
You mentioned the influence of American sports and things like that, and you know, like an NFL game goes for a while, but it's about the spectacle and the show, and they do that really, really well. But on that, you're actually, you know, we were only stuck down the bottom of the world as a country for so long, and now we're becoming more culturally diverse, and we're having these other influences and being exposed to other activities. And you look at like sport and active recreation, for example, you look at disc sports exploding, ultimate frisbee, disc golf, things like that. You know, 10 years ago, wasn't even on the radar, was not even on the radar. And then you kind of look at the shift between organised team sports an active recreation, which might be more solo in your own time. And there seems to be a big participation shift from the organised to the, hey, I want to do this, whether it's mountain biking, whether it's whatever, in my own time. Waka ama, things like that. There's been huge increase in waka ama in clubs right around the country. You know, you're looking, So, I mean, it's changing, and we need to roll with that, which is exciting at the same time, because you think of our kids and the opportunities that they'll have down the track. Pretty cool. Whereas, you know, back in the day it was rugby or football in winter, tennis or cricket or whatever in summer, and away you go, son. So
I actually had a very odd experience last year. I went to see a sport I never thought I'd ever go and see or I'd ever call a sport, but it was international darts. And I went to Clauden's Event Centre and I saw the spectacle.
They get pumped.
It was an arena, and of course, I think the Clauden's Event Centre, like they do for sort of Stan Walker concerts, depending on how much they sell out, they'll just move the stage, you know, further or closer, or whatever. Sorry, Stan Walker. I like your music. No, I don't.
I like your honesty.
When I was watching it, I took so many videos to show my students in performing arts technology. I said, look at this. Here are 2 industrial smoke machines that are so large they can fill an arena in 5 minutes. The laser light shows, the giant projector screens that they had there. And then it was a matter of the music. Every time a game finished, and he wins, whoa! Da 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 da, and everyone's in costume and singing. And yet, if you got rid of all the lights, get rid of the smoke, the screens, there is a person standing a couple of meters away from a board, standing still, throwing 1, 2, 3 darts, doing maths calculations at the speed of light, and the crowd is going mental.
They've cracked it.
They have the spectacle of the event, and I've got the videos, and I love them. Occasionally, though, the camera turns around and faces me singing, so the kids had a bit of a giggle, but still, as a sport that's changing, that's not a sport. Well, 10 years ago, it was a laughable thing. I paid, I think, $80 to go see that.
You look at the majority of these blokes, and it could be off the mark here, but they all look like they've come through the pub kind of, you know, darts or whatever night it is, and they've got the bit of the gut gun, and they've got the mohawk and the goatee or whatever, and it's sweet because I was about to call them athletes, participants, dart throwers,
players, drinkers. The drinkers step up.
You know, but I think it's also the type of sport or activity you can relate to, because they seem like average Joe. And you kind of see these guys like, I can sit down and have a beer with you, or I'll have a water or a juice or whatever.
It's a bit different from javelin.
Yeah. Like, you know, would you have a beer with a guy who throws a javelin? Well, maybe. But,
I thought it was 75 metres. Jesus.
Can they throw that far?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember a PE class when I was at high school, and someone threw a javelin at somebody, speaking about barriers. That didn't quite get him. Lucky. Yeah.
That's pretty outrageous.
I saw a kid hit by a discus when I was at primary. I saw it happen.
There's
he
always
just
one kid.
walked across it. It's like, what do you do? Boom.
They're all literally murder weapons. Like, literally, actually murder weapons. Like, what are they?
It wasn't the full size. It would have been a kilo and a half or something of like the rubber disc version, but it cracked his skull. He went to hospital. We came back like a month later.
Something I really relish watching every 4 years at the comms or the Olympic Games is the hammer throw. Like, there's a lot that could go wrong there, right?
Yeah.
And you've got some fairly hefty athletes, more so athletes than darts participants, and they've got this thing, and they've got a cage, but far out. And then you've got the old judges out in the outfield and things like that. There's a bit going on there.
Oh, they're just standing a metre further than they throw the flipping thing, eh? They're like, we should be safe here.
Pretty casual.
I think the Olympics has changed in that a lot of it was human feats that people can do based on some sort of thing that people had to do in normal everyday life. What I would love,
war.
and Australia has war. So Australia has a big outback, and they
Run
probably
away
have,
from lions.
run away from lions, or run away from a slow lion for a really long time.
Well, the fielders all just the field
the
ones
track
are
events and
the fielders just war weapons, javelins and discus and all that sort of.
But
crap.
I mean, can't we bring some of that back in? If we had, say, the hammer throw, and again, I think Aussie has the economy and the population and the wild animals to spare. Sorry, vegans. But if they had the hammer throw, where it was, you got to throw the hammer, you got to hit that kangaroo. The fake Polystyrene kangaroo. I can see the looks around the room and the dead
doesn't
silence.
bother me in the least.
Doesn't bother you. The idea of using it to hit a target, like they're throwing as far as they can a thing, or they're whipping or throwing.
I prefer two humans
Give us a
throwing it at
target.
each other.
First person to hit wins a point.
Yeah.
Could
Hammer
also-
throw, first person to hit the other person throwing the hammer.
I like it.
Going back to the kangaroo thing, you could also turn that into some kind of sustainable, know where your food comes from kind of thing too.
Yeah, kids get out there and
Sure.
Catch and
slaughter
cook.
your own sleep,
Pre-tenderized.
your own sheep.
Catch and cook. Something that's blowing up too, or has been for a few years, is the whole Ninja Warrior type thing too, eh? And that is, it's funny, you watch Ninja Warrior on telly and you think, oh, there's some big built athletes, and then you look at their weight, 65 kilos, you know, but because the camera is solely on them, they look really big, but they're like 65 kilos hanging up dripping wet. But how cool is it? And now, like, you're even here, I think in Hamilton we took the kids to one called Ninja Valley, and it's like this indoor dedicated warehouse thing where they've set up all this cool stuff,
really?
and they just go and charge. It's wicked. It's in Frankton, but anyway,
Oh, is it by the rock climbing place?
Yes, it's in that. You just keep going another couple hundred meters, turn left.
Oh, really?
And there's a few of them. There's also a balloon.
Colombo Street.
There's a balloon. Yeah, I think so. A balloon world, and there's also a trampoline world. Leap. So I went to Gravity in Auckland just recently with my kids on the big trip down to the Bay of Islands. But it's just a room full of trampolines, and then there's a giant dodgeball arena on trampolines.
Yep.
Oh, and basketball hoop, so you can do slam dunks because you could probably, I don't know, can you slam dunk at your height if you stretch your limb yourself out?
When I played basketball all the way through high school.
Did you actually?
Oh, no, actually. I played from fifth form when I was told that I had to do it.
Because you're tall.
Yes, I could dunk.
It does make sense.
Yeah, the funny thing was, and this was a little old Matamata College, right? And there might have been, this was co-ed, maybe 900 students. I started in fifth form in the senior boys team, and I was the same height that I am now, 6'8". And just at that school, I was third tallest.
Wow.
There were two guys, both seventh formers. One was 6'10", one was 6'9", and I was 6'8". And
What's in the water? Is that what they say all the time? They must have said that a lot, eh?
Well, actually, the water quality's improved a lot since then.
there you go.
With the planting.
Like I knew we go off on tangents, but we always
We've
come back around.
circulated back.
We always come back around. But
Hey, I think we are going to circle back there because we've come to a point where I really want to say some last words from this Rob Corkill, the number one parent with sports, because I want to know your number one bit of advice for me as a parent to kids my age or to people that are having kids. What's your number one thing you want to wrap us up with?
are we talking about parenting, or are we talking about sport, or are we talking about?
I think parenting, because it comes into that same echelon of kids, starting with kids.
Yep. Oh, look, the number one thing for me, like, there's all the standard stuff around the actions and consequences and things like that, but it probably goes back to that risk and barriers and letting them sort of find out for themselves. And as a parent, we've got that ingrained kind of psyche that something bad is going to happen, right? And that goes back to, if you believe in evolution or not, when we were cavemen being chased by saber-toothed tigers and
Clearly
stuff like
we
that.
do.
Like,
Go on.
there you go. But something was always going to go wrong, and we've carried that over into our risk assessment for what our tamariki are doing. But if you can just kind of step out of that risk-adverse bubble and actually think, hey, if something does happen, is it going to be so bad, or are they going to learn from it? I think that, and I mean, I still find that hard. It's something that you have to practice, because like I said, it's genetically in humans be like, oh shit, nah, pull them off from over there, something stinker's going to happen. But recognise the opportunity where you could potentially apply that and be like, hang on, no, we're just going to see how this plays out. And, even if something bad does happen, or they get a cut or a scrape, or they need stitches, well, that's a learning thing for them too, and us. So I'm not sure if that's helpful, but
I think it is helpful. And I suppose if you're watching and you let them have that space and something goes wrong, they learn that you're there for them and you were going to help them.
well, you're already that safety net just by being there. Rather than charging in and preventing them from having experiences. I mean, are they going to be more well-rounded humans if you charge in and stop them from doing that and then don't explain consequences or something, or what could have happened? They're going to learn by stuff happening to them rather than you talking at them about it. And this is going to sound a bit weird, but like take head injuries, for example. They bleed like a bastard, right? Just a little nick to the head or something, like particularly boys or whatever. The sooner that they can get some stitches inserted in their body, the sooner they're going to realise that they're not going to snap in half. and it's going to be okay and things. And that might sound a little bit creepy and weird.
Very.
I think back to thanks, man. I think back to when I think it was Max, a young fella, and again, actions, consequences, inside on the scooter on a polished concrete floor. Wheel slipped out. His ear came down on the side of a bit of furniture, and he basically ripped his earlobe off where it was attached. I'm not sure how old he was at the time. Try holding a kid that age in position to get that stitch back on, and the only thing that cheered him up afterwards was a feed of hot chips. So, but did he learn? Shit, yeah, he learned. So, hey.
I love it. Hey, what a beautiful way to sum it up.
Parenting 101 from take it or leave it.
That's beautiful. Brett, do you have any final lovely summary words around parenting or sport or your ability to get back into sport at this humble old age of yours?
Well, yeah, I might think about it. I'll think about it. Maybe I'll come down and have a look, see what you clowns are up to.
Call you into the Barracudas if we need numbers.
Yeah, well, how many people you got in that team?
Oh, the club's grown.
It's a moving feast.
I'd say we probably have 15, 16 people we can never call on, and we usually get about 8 of them, and then we have some ring-ins.
Oh. I see.
Yeah, semi-social. And the thing is with that particular sport up here is that, people have a lifestyle to live, right? And, it's not competitive. A lot of us have come from competitive club sport backgrounds, and we've been basically tied to that sport. 2 trainings a week, and then half your weekend is gone. We don't want to do that, man. We're pretty casual. So just whoever turns up, turns up.
We're getting older. We want fun.
Yeah, well, I think what you were saying was very, on the sum up that I liked, that what you're saying before, well, at the beginning, we were like, if you're even a parent who's even thinking about it, who's thinking about trying to be a better parent or actually actively trying to be like, maybe I could change this, or I could do this, or I should read a book about this, or listen to whoever, what was that guy's name again? He said
Nathan Wallace.
Listen to Nathan Wallace or something. You're really doing better than probably most of the parents out there, so that's great advice. Maybe if you're not looking at it, look at it, look at yourself, see where you might be able to make some improvements.
Nice.
I know I will.
Nice, and I'll give a shout out to the Incredible Years. I did a parenting course with the Incredible Years.
I did too.
And it was just fantastic experience. So if you hear about the Incredible Years in Whitianga with Dana and Joe.
Actually 3.
All 3?
I did that too, man. So
yeah, where the attention goes, the behaviour grows. Anyway, hey, you've been listening to ALTBAYS, watching a lovely show. We hope you enjoyed it. We have a beautiful guest over here with Rob CORKILL. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, team. Appreciate
On my
it.
left, Brett Soanes.
Well, thank you.
Beautiful person to talk to once again. Always enjoy your company.
Coromine.
Coromine magazine is a beautiful publication with some nice artwork, read by me and by a couple of hundred others, actually a lot more than that. The numbers are skyrocketing online. You can actually scan the little symbol on the Coromine magazine. It takes you to an audio version, which is quite cool. I narrated a few of the bits, and I look forward to the next edition. So Coromine, look out for it, for Coro-minded people. Thank you so much. This has been ALTBAYS. I'm Fabian, Brett, with the lovely Rob. Next show we have on Friday has the amazing Zark, Z-A-R-Q, on TikTok, Instagram. He's a pretty famous looking dude, 100,000 subscribers. What the hell does he do with his time? I have no idea. I'm looking forward to finding out. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Taylor. Have a lovely night. Peace.